win? Thank you. What did you win? I mean, Adonai, what did you win? A shirt? A long ride home shirt? Oh, man, you're lucky.
Aloha, everyone.
Yeah, Chris, I have Knights of Columbus insurance. You good for my... Hey, I want to do something because we kind of neglected it. We've had a lot of people come up to the table, but we forgot to get your emails. So I'm going to do something I've never done before, but let's see if we can do this. If you take your iPhones out, don't worry, you don't need to check the basketball scores, but take your iPhones out and go into your search and just go to deepadventure.com. I think you'll like the website. It's our website. So if you have an iPhone, go to deepadventure.com. I'll do it too. You should see some images of Cowboys there. You go to deepadventure.com, it's going to take you to the Bear School of Manliness. Are you getting it? You seen it? Okay. Somewhere in there it'll say get weekly email. You can push that button, and if it's not there, it's those three little horizontal bars on the upper right-hand corner. All you gotta do is put your name and your email in, and you'll get the email. And then I don't have to enter everybody's names too when I get home. I should do that from now on. So if you're interested in staying in touch with us, especially I want Joey to stay in touch with me, go ahead and enter your name and your email, and you'll get, every week you'll get your, the Bear Woznick Adventure comes to you every week before it airs on Saturday morning, and it's a YouTube version. In case you want to know if Adrian really has a long beard, you can see him there. So it would be really great if you did that. And I guess I'll say one other, oh yeah, all kinds of notifications right now. Everyone joining. We have there, in case you're interested, we have great programs represented here. That Man Is You is here. The Catholic Men's Leadership Alliance is here. We have Cristeros. So many great ministries. But we also have a Bear School of Manliness, deepadventure.com. We have a man cave that's for men who are all over the world, basically. And we have a private Facebook page there. It's not Facebook, it's our own Facebook. We're just upgrading it again, I think, this coming week. But, you know, you can post what's going on in your life and how you need prayers. You can share your hold my beer moments there, too. But then what I'm really excited about is our Bear School of Manliness. It's a 3-year curriculum, and it's month by month by month. So right now we're in year 2, month 2. So anyone who joins the School of Manliness joins us right there. And then on the 28th, we're going to have a Man Cave Zoom meetup. All the men kind of gather for exactly 1 hour. We start on time and end on time exactly 1 hour, because everyone's so busy. But then the Bear School of Manliness, there's a curriculum there. There's video. I got Father Bryce Lundgren, the Catholic Wyoming cowboy priest. His thoughts. We have Daniel Markin, if you know my show, he does the country ups. And then I have written stuff, and I have some deep virtues that show on EWTN. But so, for example, this month we're talking about each person writing down a list of their personal code. So if you're interested, but what I'm really excited about is it's great for men. We as men go through that together. And if you're an adult male, you can be a part of the Man Cave. But as a father, you can bring your sons can have their own login. But you can monitor their login, how many lessons they've gone through, and you can go through with your sons each month the School of Manliness, the different elements of that we're going through. I forget what we're going through next week. I think it's called Being Man of Your Word. But May 19th, we're having a Man Cave meetup in Melbourne, Florida, on the beach. So if you're interested in coming for a couple days with a bunch of knuckle-dragging Neanderthals, you're welcome to join us. So if anybody has any trouble signing up, ask a buddy to help you get on deepadventure.com and do that. So I'm glad that's maybe the way I should do it in the future, because it's a lot of effort for people to write down their emails and then me enter it manually. So we're so glad to be here. I was in Florida about 5 years ago doing a men's conference, and I had a buddy of mine who was a champion surfer come with me. And I don't know if this would happen in Texas, but this is what happened in Florida. I bet it would happen here too. And I like to demonstrate knife fighting, because knife fighting kind of cracks me up. As a ninja black belt, I've trained, I like to train in that as long as the wives are not sharp, you know, they're dull wooden knives. But when a knife attack comes, you know, when someone has a knife, you kind of pretty much know they're probably going to try to stab me with it. They're probably not going to hit me, you know. So you have an advantage on them because you know where the attack's coming from. And so in this knife attack, I had Gerard, Gerard, you're going to attack me. I'm almost tempted to bring Adrian up here, or Nathan up here, or someone. But you're going to attack me. You got to use intent. You got to use your power. You got to make it real with this wooden knife. And whatever happens to you, yield, because otherwise you're going to end up getting a wrist broken or something. So he attacked me, and I did a wrist throw and slit his throat, basically with the knife as he was flying by me. Ninjas are really good at that kind of stuff. And his gun flew out of his pocket. he has a carry license in Florida. Is there a carry in Texas? Very much carry in Texas? Yeah, good. There is? Good. But anyway, I was thinking only in Florida would I see in a church doing this, and then the guys, and no one even blinked. Oh, there's a gun. I think they thought it was his phone or something. But I want to talk about knife fighting, because basically, one way we could look at it is we're all in a fight with God. You know, remember who came up and I think their name is Israel. Who was up? Said their name is Israel earlier. There you go. I told you I was going to talk about Israel. Well, what was Israel's name before his name became Israel? Jacob. Thank you. It was Jacob. Do you remember the story of the fight in the desert that Jacob had? Wrestled with the angel of the Lord? You know, for the whole night. And the angel of the Lord, by the way, I think they call it a theophany. It's a pre-incarnate presence of Jesus on earth. So he's wrestling with Jesus, and they're fighting all night long. And I think a lot of us here probably have that feeling sometimes that we're wrestling with God. You know, there's something that he's asking of us, or something that we want to do, or something that we're not doing, and we're wrestling with God. And he fought Jesus all night long. And then it says, what do you do when you're in a fist fight and you're losing? What do they do? What do they usually do? Huh? What? Try to cheat? Oh, I'm not talking about what a ninja would do. That's what we do. We cheat. No, but in a regular fight, but true, even in a ninja fight, if you're boxing with Muhammad Ali or someone, and he's beating you up, are you going to go run and jump out of the ring? You're probably going to go jump. You're probably going to hang on to him. Because then his punch, yeah, well, that's before UFC, dude. I had all the ninja black belts at my house the night of the first UFC fight, when we didn't know who Gracie was. And they all came over after the dojo, teaching that night. But I was home early because they were going to be coming over. And I happened to see that the one that they were coming over for was a repeat of what was showing 2 hours earlier. So I watched the whole thing. And I totally told them, oh, man, I guessed everyone who was going to win. They were kind of amazed. We're kind of amazed by Gracie, right? What's Gracie? I met Hicks and his brother surfing in Malibu. He was showing me pictures of him fighting in Japan, and I was like, dude, you really know what you're doing. And he goes, and he introduces himself. Buddy says, my friend, he's another black belt was with me, Paul. He said, oh, it's a Hickson. And I never thought, oh yeah, I never realized. I remember there's a Hickson Gracie. He's the one who taught his brother voice. But I kind of know what you're doing. He goes, yeah, it's Hickson Gracie, dude. It's Hickson Gracie. And then we're surfing at Malibu, which if anybody knows Malibu, it's a point break. It means there's a lot of fight over a wave because everybody's taking off at the same point. And we're teaching Hickson how to surf. And he's like a kook, right? Running over everybody, not doing so good. And the Malibu jerks are starting to call him out. And then finally Paul goes, hey guys, that's Hickson. And they go, we don't care who he is. That's Hickson Gracie. We don't care. He's kook, get him out of the water. And one of them said, oh, Hickson who again did you say? Hickson Gracie. So, yeah. But if you're in a fight, and you're getting punched at, the best thing to do is to close ranks and hold on to that person. Then they can't hit you as hard. That's what Jacob did, right? In the desert. It says he clung on to the Lord. And they fought all night. There's probably some little bit of Most fights end up on the ground. They're probably wrestling on the ground. And then finally, he said, I will not let you go until you bless me. And I just think there's a lot of people right now in this room who have been wrestling with God, and you're fighting him, but you don't want to let go of him either. And the word to say to him is, God, I will not let go of you until you bless me. And what happened was God hit him in the hip. And I took a hit like that 2 years ago. In my outrigger canoe, I hoolied the canoe, I flipped it, and this muscle tore loose. And it's taken me until about now until I can walk without a limp. I know what it's like to have been hit there, and damaged there, and walk with a limp. And it's like Jacob from that day on walked with a bit of a limp. God gave him a new name, Israel, that night. But he walked with a bit of a limp, but it was from that moment when all the blessings came in his life. But we kind of need to do that. We need to kind of walk with a limp. We need to hesitate. Is this you, Lord? What do you want from me, Lord? And hesitate. And like when you surf big waves, if I've been at Waimea, 24, 26-foot wave. I have never surfed like waves like my son Jeremiah surfed 85-foot waves, but 26 foot is a big wave. It'll kill you. I know that the second time I dropped in on that wave, this finger here is supposed to point this way, just by dragging my hand in the face of the wave to stabilize myself and make the bottom turn. This finger started pointing in a direction it wasn't supposed to. It's a powerful wave. Waimea will kill you. But I remember taking that drop and making that big drop and totally committing to that drop. It's like that in our lives. You can't kind of sort of surf Waimea. You either drop in or you don't. If you don't want to be there, don't be there. I was scared. And then tell my friend David Pugu, who, by the way, that picture on that book David Pugu took, he said, my sister in Army boots could surf bigger waves than this, So I finally dropped in. But but I remember the guy in front of me, this just kind of goes back to what I was saying last night. The guy in front of me who was surfing there for the first time too, he started going, and everyone goes, go, go, go. But in his head, he just heard, no, no, no. And so he hesitated. And the worst thing you can do at Waimea is kind of like the story of Elijah standing on one foot and then the other. He got pitched, he went over the falls and drilled, and then up and over the falls again, and drilled and up again. So you either got to go or no go with the Lord. You can't kind of halfway drop in at Waimea. You can't sit on the shoulder at Waimea. You can't sit there. You can't catch a wave if you're sitting on the shoulder. You got to be in the pit. There's an oval. There's a big round circle in the water that lets you know there's a shallow reef beneath that. By shallow, I mean it's probably 25 feet deep, because Waimea is a big wave. It takes a deep break, but you get right on that reef, because that's, when the big sets come and the hey now the mountain waves, you can see them coming for several minutes out to sea. You can see them rising up, and you're sitting there on that boil mark, and when it comes, you're not going to get to paddle away from it. What you do when it's really big, you can't paddle towards shore, because it's just going to eat you up. You got to paddle out. Maybe you paddle out and get over the waves, or maybe you don't. But it's counterintuitive when you want to get to the beach, but you have to paddle out. You have to make that break. And it's one of those things, one of the first lessons you learn in the Carmelite spirituality is called detachment. At some point, you got to turn your back and all that other crap, maybe it's good stuff, but you got to paddle out, detach from all the temporal values, all the temporal things, your career, whatever else you're trying to hold on to. Those are all good things, but not if you're clinging to them. And you got to go out into the deep. And you get out into the deep, get out past that big wave. I have a friend, Clyde Cow. Anybody know who Eddie is? You guys are not surfers. I know West Texas has a lot of sand, but they don't have any waves out there. Sand. But, well, I won't go into. You'll read about Eddie in the book. But his friend Clyde Cow his brother Clyde Cow was a friend of mine. All my sons worked for him on the beach, and he's a legendary big wave surfer. And And he was caught by a 45-foot wave at the last eddy. The Eddy Cow event is held in Eddie's honor, only when the surf is 45 foot plus, so it's held about every 9 to 10 years. But when Jeremiah, my son, he dropped in on this big wave and he blew out his shoulder 8 pins. And then but then he went out for his second heat, paddling with one arm, monster waves, and an 80-foot wave came rolling in, and he had only one choice, and that was to try to paddle out and get past that wave. But he got to a point where, kind of like Jacob, he could only paddle with one wave, and he just realized, I'm not going to make it over. So he had at some point, when the wave came, just push off his board and dive as deep as he could. Try to get out of the way of the power of this wave. And he got pushed down by that wave and was held down against the reef, flattened against the reef, hanging onto the rocks like a crab. And but he was totally committed. He was totally committed. When you go out at big surf, there's a saying, go big or go home. When Jeremiah went out that day when it was 85 foot, he got towed into 45-foot waves by my friend Crazy Todd. And then Todd said, you like go big? And Jeremiah's like, I thought I was going big. And he looks out and he can see the hey Nalu. So Jeremiah made a decision. It took him a good minute. He sat there his whole life. He had wanted to surf the biggest waves in the world. And this was that day, the biggest day in 40 years. The Coast Guard called it 100 foot. He's the only guy surfing on the North Shore that day, of Oahu. And they have it on camera, some guy's about 1.5 miles away filming him, but he's so small, he's like smaller than a pixel. But he had to think of this one thing. Is it worth it to me today to die so that I can have this ultimate rush, this ultimate experience? Because big wave surfers, they don't have a desire to die, they have a desire to live life to the fullest. But he had to make that decision. Am I willing to die to do this? And then once he made that decision, everything changed. Yes, I'm willing to die. He was in his early 30s, his whole life, this is what I want, this is something. He always had big wave pictures in his bedroom wall. And so Crazy Todd towed him out. He dropped in, he pulled him into a wave. What happens, you pull him on the jet ski, because when it's big, you paddle rhino chasers or elephant guns, big boards, so that you can paddle fast enough to catch the waves. But once it gets too big, you can't paddle fast enough, so you get towed in behind a jet ski on a shorter surfboard, and then the jet ski pulls you in and then whips you into that wave, and you go over the cornice into that wave. He's on the top of the wave like this, probably every now and then being able to look down and see you, but he tries to travel along with you. So Jeremiah dropped in, and it was 1.5 miles before he could kick out. In fact, it wasn't before he could kick out, too. After 1.5 miles, my friend Crazy Todd's kind of looking and seeing. This is a long ride. And then finally, it threw. He could see 1/2 mile in front of him. It was going to paddle. It was going to throw out and just close out the whole. It wasn't like it's curling as he's surfing. It's just going to be a dump. And so he didn't know what. He just instinctively made a bottom turn in the middle of the wave. And with a barrel as big as this, much higher than this roof, the wave. How high is this? Probably twice as high. A monster wave. So big you could put several semi-trucks inside the barrel he was in. And he made a turn, and he went into the lip of the wave, which is normally about 4 or 5 inches. This is several feet, like 8 to 10 foot thick lip. And he Superman. He pushed off the board and Superman through the back of the wave, out the back, as this wave just closed out. And my friend Crazy Todd is like, how in the world did you even get here? And he saved it. But Jeremiah made a decision that day, that he was willing to die to have that experience. And that's what we are. We need to, if you want to have the ultimate, what do you think would be the ultimate experience of life? It'd be to see Jesus face to face. It'd be to see God. It'd be to look at God and God look at you and you find pleasure in His gazing upon you. And by the way, Joey, when we go to heaven, there's a thing that happens there when it's all said and done, where it says that God, that there will be silence in heaven for the period of a half hour. And during that half hour, God will wipe every tear away from everyone's eye, all the pain and suffering. And then let's go do it. Let's go do this stuff. It was kind of like in your life, if you had a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of betrayal, people that you've loved have betrayed you. Let God wipe away that tear from your eye, but then at some point you got to go, okay, it's been a half hour, or whatever it takes. Now it's time to go on with the Lord. Now it's time to go on and live a full and abundant life. Put that in your rearview mirror, learn from it. Gain the compassion, whatever the Lord is teaching you in terms of virtue, but go on. So when Jeremiah made that decision to drop in on that wave, he wasn't like my friend everyone said go, he wanted to hear no, and he hesitated. In this life, we need to live like we're going to die. We all got a death sentence. The ultimate rush is to see God face to face. That's the ultimate rush. But guess what? There's a hell. It's not politically correct to say, but there's a hell. And Jesus said, the road is straight and the gate is narrow, and few there be that travel thereon. I know when I have my radio show, there's people that day that will die before the day's over that are listening. So I take that radio show as serious as a heart attack. And you should too. In this day, live like you're going to die. Who knows the memento mori, what it means? Remember, you know how do you know all that stuff? You learned Latin. Not pig Latin? Real Latin. I know. Satan hates that language. Yeah, it's good. So, memento mori means remember your death. And it came from, historically, I didn't start my clock. How am I doing? I can't see that. 5, okay. Memento mori, when the Roman general would win a great victory, he'd leave his army on the other side of the Rubicon, at least they were supposed to. And he would come in and they would have a triumph. And he would march through Rome with all of the plunder and all the slaves, and all the people of Rome would cheer for him, and all the slaves of Rome would cheer for him. And it was a big deal. Oh, you're the greatest thing, better than Rocky. And then there would be a slave walking several steps behind him. Well, I believe he was riding a horse. And the slave would just say, memento mori. Remember your death. You're only a man. And that became the kind of creed of the monks of the desert. Like Adrian doesn't know, he looks like a monk of the desert. They would never speak, right? They were called the ascetic life. You know what the ascetic life is? Basically being lean and mean for Jesus. The word ascetic means athlete. They were athletes for Christ. And they went out into the deserts of North Africa and they prayed, and they didn't battle with Satan. Right? St. Anthony of the desert would come out bruised up with his fights with Satan. But they would do battle out there in the desert and they would pray. But when they would gather together, which might be once a week or once a month, the only thing they would say to each other would be memento mori, remember your death. And so we have to live like we're going to die. And nothing else matters. And someday you're going to see God face to face and all. I think about, I was telling Chris about reading Warren Carroll's Christendom. You read all these stories of all these emperors and all their vowing and jousting and wanting money, glory, power, sex. And most of those emperors were dead within 8 years of becoming an emperor, and usually because someone killed them. But they needed that power and glory, and then they're dead. So all this getting and gaining and all this other stuff, it means nothing. What means something is when you give your life to the Lord and you spend eternity with Him, which lasts a long time. And I'll just close with this one story, at least this talk, I get to give one more. There was a man who was a very good man, very wealthy man. And he said, hey God, I know you're not supposed to be able to take anything with you to heaven, but you think I could? I've been an exceptionally good man. And he said, well, okay, I'm going to let you. I will let you bring something to heaven. Because the only thing you can bring something to heaven, you know what it is? Other people. That's it. But God made an exception for him, and He said, oh, okay, you've been such a good man. And you're so wealthy, I hate to have you leave it all behind. You can bring something. So he gets to heaven, St. Peter's there, and he goes, hey, I guess you got the message. God let me bring some stuff. And he goes, well, let me check this. So he goes, the clerk goes and gets St. Peter, and he goes, did you hear anything about this? And God's going to let this guy bring some stuff into heaven. He goes, well, let me go check, on the computer, and there it is. He gets to bring something with him to heaven. And the guy's so happy because he didn't bring a bunch of jewelry. He just brought, what it is, he brought solid gold bricks. What could be more valuable than that? And he gets to heaven, and Peter's there. He goes, yeah, I guess you can. So what did you decide to bring? And he's got this wheelbarrow full of gold bricks. And he said, you can bring anything to heaven. You decided you'd bring pavement? so all the things that we cling to, let it go. That rattlesnake, let all that go. And just go big, as my friend Crazy Todd says, and he is crazy. Go big or go home. Go all out with the Lord. And then we look forward to that day, the beatific vision. And we hope to see what if you're there and you say, oh, I remember you. I remember I prayed and prayed and prayed for you. I never met you, but I prayed and prayed and prayed for you. And that person's there to tell you, well, I never met you either, but I heard that your prayers, one of the reasons I'm here is because of your prayers. The bishop mentioned St. Therese of Lisieux. She was a cloistered nun. She never got to, once she went in, she was not allowed to leave. I think she left a couple times. But she is the patron saint of evangelists. Because what the boots on the ground need is prayer, right? So, because of her prayer. And think about what Mother Angelica did with EWTN, right? A cloistered nun does that. So, I guess we're going to take a break. For how long, Adrian? Are we back on time? Okay. Memento mori! Memento mori!